Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on branding your organizational culture. I'm very glad you could join us this afternoon. I'm Jamie Machik with the Nicolet Federated Library System in Green Bay, Wisconsin. A gloomy and rainy day here. I imagine that's the case for many of you across the state. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm really excited about today's presentation. We have Stacie Ledden, the Communications Director, and Susan Dobbs, the Human Resources Director for Anythink Libraries, based in Colorado. And Stacie assisted in launching the Anythink brand, and they're going to talk a little bit about what Anythink is when they begin. She assisted in launching the brand that in 2011 garnered the John Cotton Dana Award for Outstanding Public Relations in Libraries and was named a Library Journal Mover and Shaker in 2013. And Susan is the Director of Human Resources and was integral to the library's reinvention and shifting the culture to one that embraces change, creativity, and disruption. So we are recording today's presentation, so if you missed something, you can go back and view that, and we will have time for questions at the end as well. So Stacie and Susan, whenever you are ready.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Dobbs.
And I'm Stacie Ledden, and thank you everyone for being here today. We're really excited to share our story with you. We're going to be talking about, oops, let's see here. Here we go. The intersection of branding and culture, and talking a little bit about what our experience has been like here at Anythink, and then just like Jamie said, we'll have some time for questions at the end as well. So I want to kick things off by telling you a little bit about our Backyard Concert Series. This is, we just hosted this summer our second annual Backyard Concert Series, and this is a fundraiser for the Anythink Foundation. And it's one of our favorite events that we get to put on here at Anythink because we're huge music fans, and it really exemplifies the kind of culture that we have here at Anythink. All of our staff chip in, and people come. We typically host this on the back lawn at our Wright Farms branch, and people come from all over the county, and they bring their lawn chairs and their picnic baskets and their dogs and their families, and it's a really great way for people to come together in a super relaxed setting, and they drink beer and eat barbecue and hang out and connect with their neighbors. And the really great thing is that our staff here all chip in and kind of volunteer their time to make this happen and create a really amazing experience for our customers. Well, this past summer, there's something about July here in Colorado. This is actually the second year we had this happen, but we ended up having monsoon rains the day of the concert. And we, every time we host one of these concerts, it's typically the second Friday of the month throughout the summer, we're feverishly checking the Doppler radar. And we just knew. I mean, it was like 80% chance of rain when we came in that morning. And so the discussion became, do we cancel the concert for the evening, or do we rally and try to make this happen? And again, because it's one of our most fun things that we get to do here, our staff came together and said, okay, we can totally make this happen. We did a quick walk through of the branch and said, all right, we can set up the barbecue in the cafe, we can pour beers in the program space, we can set up the band under the trees in the children's area, we can totally do this. And it ended up being an incredible experience, and there's something really fun about being able to eat barbecue and dance and drink beer in the middle of the library after it's closed. We ended up still having about 200 people who came, and it was just a really incredible time. The band, Erica Brown and the Afrosippi Band were incredible, and this is a shot of some of the folks at the end. They encored with Stand By Me, and everybody was just up and singing along and dancing and getting down, and it was just, we were just creating memories, and really that's kind of what the concert was all about. So this would definitely be the kind of story that could be told in two different ways. This could be a story of, we got rained out, We didn't have as many people show up as we had hoped. But really, we think of this more as a lemons to lemonade story. And, one of our core values is optimism, and our stories really reflect that. The fact that we were still able to make this great experience happen for our customers and for our staff to rally and really be committed to this great event says a lot about our culture here at Anythink. So Zappos is a company that we look to for inspiration a lot. They are a company that really understands this intersection of branding and culture. They give presentations all over the world about company culture and how it's represented in their brand. And there's a really great quote I want to share with you from Tony Hsieh, who is the founder of Zappos. He wrote, "When you think about a brand, you don't mentally pull up a list of bullet points. You either think, I love this company, or I don't. Ultimately, a brand is a shortcut to a set of emotions. The Zappos brand emanates from every employee. We make an emotional connection person to person, one interaction at a time." And really, what I believe that Tony's saying here is that your staff is your brand. And because of this, it's really important to nurture your staff by building a strong culture. If you build that strong culture, you're ultimately building a strong brand. And it's really important to understand that every culture is different and every brand is different. So it's important to know who you are as an organization and what your why is. Know your why. So a couple years ago, we helped to launch a conference called R Squared, the Risk and Reward Conference. It was held in Telluride, Colorado in September 2012. And Susan organized the culture track, and this gentleman here, Donovan Roberson, spoke as part of that track. He's formerly with Zappos Insights. And one of the really key things that he said during that conference was that culture isn't just important, it's absolutely critical. And really at the heart of that is knowing your why. And during his presentation, he told this really great story about one of the sessions that he did for Zappos Insights. And he was talking with this guy, and he asked him, what is it that you do? And the guy said, I'm a refrigerator repairman, and I own a company repairing refrigerators for restaurants. And Donovan said, nah, man, what is it that you do? And the guy thought about it for a second and said, well, we repair refrigerators for restaurants. And, those restaurants are serving meals for people who are coming in and celebrating birthdays and anniversaries and connecting with their friends and families. So I guess what we're really doing ultimately is helping to support that. And Donovan said, yes, yes, yes. Do you think you could go back to your organization and rally your team around that idea? And the guy did go back to his company and really kind of thought about that why, that helping to create memories for people and create amazing experiences for people, and completely changed his organization because of that. That was just a story that really stayed with us, and I think really exemplifies that understanding of knowing your why. And one thing to really keep in mind too is that you don't want to assume that your staff all has the same why. It needs to be something that's communicated, and your brand can be the vehicle to help you do that. Part of what's really made Anythink successful is that very early on we established our why. We follow what we call the experience model. So everything that we do is based on creating amazing experiences for our customers. And that's really our why, and that guides everything that we do, from our mission statement, which is we open doors for curious minds, to our core values, which Susan is going to be talking about here in a sec. to the way our spaces are designed, to the way that the kinds of programs that we offer, and really the Anythink brand itself. So we came up with the experience model, and when we were really kind of starting from the ground up and trying to define where we wanted to go next as an organization and really getting to the heart of that why. And part of what was, one thing that was really influential to us was actually the OCLC study that came out in 2008, From Awareness to Funding. If you are not familiar with this study, I highly recommend checking it out. It's still something, obviously here I'm talking about it today, 6 years later, that's been really influential to us. And one of the big things that came out of that was that the demographics that we assume support and fund libraries were really blown out of the water. You may assume that people, that Democrats or women or families or even people who use the library on a regular basis, that they are the ones that are going to support you. And this study basically blew all of that out of the water and said, that's just not the case. You cannot always count on that. The people who do support libraries are those who've had transformational experiences at the library. Either they themselves have had it or somebody that close to them, somebody that they know has had a transformational experience. The other thing that they cited is that passionate librarians also have a huge impact on whether somebody will support the library. So these two things have been really influential to us in how we've really rethought libraries here in Adams County. And just recently, we celebrated Anythink's 5th birthday, and there was a young man who posted on our Facebook page, and I just think this is such a brilliant example of that transformational experience, so I want to go ahead and share it with you. So I'm going to go ahead and read it right now. My Anythink memory is back, let me just back up. One of the things that we were doing for Anythink's birthday was actually asking people to share their library memories. So this young man took it upon himself to share this. This was just a few weeks ago. My Anythink memory is back in 2010 when my father was deployed in Iraq for a year. I was 13 or so and had never branched out in terms of musical taste and was curious. I remember walking into the library looking for something new to listen to, went to the CDs, and a whole new world opened up to me on that shelf. I checked out only things that I liked the cover of, and thus I was introduced to music that carried me through that year. I discovered music from Anythink. It was that day and that moment of exploration that inspired to write and play my own music. And when I went to learn to play music like what I was listening to, I went straight to Anythink and would spend hours reading books on music theory. My musical taste and inspirations all stem from that shelf in Anythink Wright Farms. I probably wouldn't be who I am today without that catalog of fantastic music. I mean, every time I read this, it just it warms my heart and brings tears to my eyes. These are the kinds of transformational experiences that we're referring to when we use that term. And sometimes I think it's gotten really, it's a really popular term that we talk about a lot, but this is it. And this is really what your libraries, the people who work in your libraries, this is the impact you're having every single day. And it's just absolutely incredible. And this is we strive to help facilitate these kinds of experiences on a regular basis.
At Anythink, because we know how important passionate librarians are to the community, we try to create opportunities to inspire them. One of the ways we do this is through our all-staff training days. At Anythink, we believe everyone is creative, so we designed an entire training day focused on creativity. We took concepts from the culture track of R Squared to design creativity and teamwork challenges. Yes, we had a bouncy castle. Actually, it was more like a bouncy obstacle course. But in these challenges throughout the afternoon, people had to problem solve and collaborate And one of the fun challenges was to work together to build a fort. We spent the day in activities like painting class, giving everyone a chance to explore their own creativity. It's really important to us to explore our own creativity so that we can better support the creativity of our customers. Even though we have tons of fun in our training days, they always go back to support our values and our culture. So we've talked about culture, so what is culture? And I like to describe culture as the personality of a company. It's those things that include the quirks, the routines, the style that's unique to your organization. Core values is one of the things that also fuel that personality. And so our core values are another thing Anythinkers rally behind. Values of an organization are really similar to personal values, so that it's what you feel strongly about, what's important to you, how you live your life. All companies have values. They may not be written down. They might not even be healthy for the organization, but they have values that they use to make decisions, to market their products, to run their operations. At Anythink, we're guided by these shared values: compassion for our customers and each other, passion for our product, eagerness to learn, an optimistic attitude. We believe anything is possible. We also have 13 core competencies. That's a huge part of our organization and help us define who we are. These are the soft skills that are required no matter who you are in the organization, from part-time wrangler to library director. And our 13 core competencies are: I am customer focused, I am cooperative and collaborative, I am understanding and compassionate, I am a self-starter and have a strong work ethic, I am flexible and embrace change, I am a problem solver, I am an effective communicator. Thank you. Obviously, I said in action. Now I'm a problem solver. Thank you, Stacie. I am responsible and honest. I am emotionally mature. I am a continuous learner. I am an innovator. I am a leader. I am an Anythinker. These competencies really represent us and how we interact with each other and our customers. And so I'd like to tell you a story. A really great example of an Anythinker living our competencies is Dan and the story of the green chicken egg. And so one of our experience zones over the summer was to hatch chickens at the library. And so we had 11 eggs in an incubator, and the chickens started to hatch. And we had 10 chickens hatch, and people were coming in every day to look to see what egg had hatched. But we had one green egg that still hadn't hatched, and staff was getting worried. We're like, oh no, this green egg has not hatched, and what's going on? So we didn't want the kiddos to get alarmed, so we brought the unhatched egg in the back room. And the egg finally cracked open, but the chick had a curled foot. And we knew the chick wasn't going to make it if it couldn't walk. So here comes Dr. Dan to the rescue. Using his librarian superpowers, he did some research, watched some YouTube videos, and figured out how to make a foot splint for this baby chick. Our facilities manager was there to provide electrical tape, and we used an Anythink library card to kind of make the base of the splint. Dan also came in 3 times that weekend to check on this baby chick to make sure he was okay. And in a couple days, he was able to take the splint off, and the chick was able to walk around on its own. So it was time to name this chick, and like all the other chicks, we had a naming contest where all the kids put the names into a fishbowl, and we pulled a name each time a chicken had hatched. So it was time to pull the name for Green Egg Chick. And what name did we draw out for this little miracle chick? But Thunderfoot. So appropriate. But really, Dan is a true Anythinker. Initiative, problem solving, compassion, full display on what happened with Thunderfoot and Dan.
the thing that was really cool too about this is that, well, it was such a team effort. So everybody was like, "Oh my God, is the chick okay? Oh my God, what's going on with the chick?" And then I think it was one of Dan's like coworkers who sent an email out to all staff that told the story and just said, "Thank you, Dan, for being so amazing." And then everybody was chiming in, and it was just incredible that he had put so much of himself into this. And I think he even had his son involved. His son was here and helped make the splint. But that his coworkers really rallied behind him, and it was really incredible to see, and is again very emblematic of those competencies and the culture here at Anythink. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Anythink brand itself. You know, we talk a lot about, I mean, and Anythink is, you know, somewhat disruptive as a library brand, but it's really so much more than a logo for us. It's truly the flag that we march behind. So another theory that's been really influential to us here at Anythink is sort of this concept of this branding pyramid. This is something that's typically used in marketing, but we use this not just when we are talking about our communications and marketing strategies, but really when we think about how we design programs and really our approach to the kinds of services that we offer. So the branding pyramid is based on this idea of features, benefits, and emotional space. So we're thinking about this in the context of libraries. The features of a library are things like books and computers, DVDs, databases. The benefits, this middle layer, are things like you get help with your resume, you may go to story time with your child, you come to the library and you learn something new. But this emotional space, this top of the pyramid, is what we're always striving for. So we want people to feel something when they come to the library. We want them to feel smart. We want them to feel welcomed, supported, inspired. You can kind of go back to that story that the young man shared and how he has that emotional connection with the library. That's what we're trying to do with all of the folks who either visit us online or step through our doors. We ultimately want people to fall in love with Anythink. And you know, when we think about this in a branding context, it's about building brand loyalty. And it's the difference between, well, one of the examples that I like to give is, you know, the reason that people get Harley Davidson tattooed on their arm. That's a brand. You know, and they're willing to put that on their body because they have that emotional association with that brand. It's part of their identity. It's the reason that people don't put stickers on over the Apple on the back of their MacBooks. It's a point of pride. And so that emotional space is something that we're always thinking about and striving for through our communications and through the experiences that we offer here at Anythink. So it was 5 years ago that we rebranded as Anythink, and we had made some really significant changes to our service philosophy, and we really needed a brand that better represented that. We also, you know, I think we were talking about this earlier, that we, you know, feel like our competition as libraries are places like our Google and Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Starbucks. Those are really significant brands. So we wanted to create a challenger brand that could essentially compete with that kind of competition. Over 70% of the people who live in Adams County, Colorado, which is the community that we serve here, which is just north of Denver, so over 70% of the people who live in our county are 50 or younger. So we have a lot of young families. We have a pretty young community here, and we really wanted a brand that would resonate with those folks. So we worked with a creative team who really tapped into the DNA of our organization here. And this logo, this brand really represents that DNA. So there's a playfulness, there's energy, and really that's kind of what we're all about as well. So this orange squiggly line here is what we call the doodle. It's really kind of has a personality all of its own as well. It really does represent that kinetic energy that you feel when you walk into our libraries. It also represents different things to different people. So some people take a look at it and they say it looks like a brain, or it looks like linguini. Our former communications director used to say that it was the beginning of all ideas. It's also accessible to a lot of different ages. So no matter if you're a young person or an adult, you've doodled on your notepad at some point, and so it's something that's accessible to lots of different people. The name itself, Anythink, is of course a made-up word, and it really just represents to us that we believe at the library anything is possible. So we actually have spent a lot of time honing and developing the Anythink voice. It's a voice that's friendly and accessible. It's sometimes irreverent, but most importantly, it's really consistent across all of our touch points. So no matter if you're interacting with our staff when you come into the library, or chatting with us on Twitter, or viewing our website, or reading our public magazine, that voice is consistent throughout. Which is incredibly important. And one of the easiest things that you can change when you're rolling out a new brand or even sustaining a brand, that consistency is really key.
So Stacie talked about the Anythink voice, and you can hear that Anythink voice in everything that we do, even our internal documents. So when you read our job descriptions, you get a sense of optimism, passion, and energy that defines Anythink. Our job descriptions are playful too, right? So I'd like to read a piece from our job description of why Anythink Libraries. So why Anythink Libraries? A job with Anythink is a chance to use your knowledge and experience to enable transformations every day. You will be instrumental in helping our customers have fun, whether they're sitting by the fireplace with a newspaper, surfing the internet, gaming in our teen room, or learning something new at one of our many intriguing and entertaining programs. As you help and inspire others, you will also be inspired. This job will have you loving Monday mornings again. We believe in our staff and the impact they have on people's lives. They're more than just staff. They're part wizard, part genius, part explorers to us. This language you'll see in many of our publications, including our job descriptions. You can even hear that voice and energy in some of our policies. So to give you an example, we'll take a look at our dress code policy that we call the Anythink style. And the Anythink style says, "We look great," is one of Anythink's 13 brilliant steps to customer service. Everyone has their own personal fashion style, and looking great tells our customers that we care about our work, and we project that through our appearance and attitude. Part of that policy is, I have an approachable style, whether it be preppy, trendy, or uniquely my own. I come to work ready to shine and be friendly and welcoming to our customers. We believe in our staff, and we want people to have their unique style. We all have our unique style. And so, but we say it in a way that goes back to understanding, again, the overall why. And our why goes back to creating those great experiences for our customers and making them feel welcome and comfortable in a place that they know people care. So how does an individual support organizational culture? And first, it's important, actually critical, to align yourself with an organization that has the same values you do so that you're comfortable living them. Again, we display our values in our job postings so people know what type of organization we are and whether it's going to be a good fit. The stories you tell are also a way an individual can contribute to the culture of an organization. One of our values is optimism, like we've talked about, so we tell our stories in a positive, optimistic way. Engaging, sharing, and learning from each other is another way we contribute to the culture. At Anythink, we do this by creating opportunities for people to come together. And we've made an intentional decision to invest time and resources into a group we call the Yellow Geckos, which is our staff appreciation task force.
They have way too much fun, by the way.
This is a spunky group of Anythinkers from across the district. And we have all levels. We have wranglers to branch managers in this group. And their mission is to support our culture of optimism and play by organizing events outside of work to get people together. We believe when you get to know each other and their families outside of our normal day-to-day, we work better together. So the Yellow Geckos put on events like karaoke nights, Sunday afternoon hikes, going to roller derby matches, and our favorite is our annual bowling night. And it is coming up this month. This is an amazing fun night where teams organize, come up with team names and costumes. Some of the teams go all out on these costumes. And we have a night full of light competition and fun. But when we started bowling night, it wasn't that big. We only had 7 teams participate. But this year we have over 20 teams participate. We're practically taking over the bowling alley. And so some of my favorite, I had to include some pictures of these teams. Some of my favorite teams from last year is Zoink Scared Splitless, which is for the Scooby-Doo fans. And they look like the Scooby-Doo crew to me. They're amazing.
They're awesome.
And the Dewey Decimal Zombies, they took the idea of Dewey Decimal being dead at Anythink literally, and their costumes are so creative when you really look at them. So they're all zombies. They all have a pin attached with their corresponding Dewey Decimal number. So the zombie of Joseph Stalin has 947 for Russian history. Great, fabulous. There are teams, there's some pretty competitive teams that really come to bowl. And then there are teams like Stacie's team that come to drink beer.
She keeps throwing me under the bus with this one. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we just, I had just mentioned, on September 12th, we celebrated our 5th year birthday, is how we like to describe it, as Anythink. So it was 5 years since we launched the Anythink brand. And something that's really important to us is how do we sustain it? How do we keep the brand fresh? How do we continue to grow this culture and nurture this culture, just like we had talked about earlier, how important that is, and continue to grow and evolve and move the organization forward. So in 5 years, so actually it was 6 years ago, in 2008, our market share was at about 17% for Adams County. And so we had 17% of the population that were cardholders. And now, 6 years later, we've doubled that. We're at about 34%, 35% cardholdership here in Adams County. We received a lot of recognition in a short amount of time. So within that first year of launching the Anythink brand, we had won the National Medal for Museum and Library Service. We were on the cover of Library Journal. We had won the John Cotton Dano Award. And so it was a lot that happened really quickly. But we knew that we could not rest on our laurels, that we had to keep pushing. You can never take it for granted. And we had to keep pushing and learning and evolving. So one way that we do that is through our staff training days, just like Susan was talking about earlier. This is actually a photo from our annual Tech Fest. We have an annual staff training day. All staff are invited that focuses on emerging technologies. You know, one of the things, you know, this really highlights our curious nature, which goes back again to our mission statement. We open doors for curious minds. So we continue to foster that through coming up with really cool, great, really impactful training days for our staff. We also do this, you know, we always are going back to that that why and staying true to ourselves, and really everything that we do focuses on creating amazing experiences for our customers, and continuing to make sure that what we do is authentic and really true to us, true to who we are at Anythink. We continue to constantly be guided by our vision and our values. So in addition to staying true to our why, one of the things that helps us sustain the culture and the brand is really by constantly asking why. Allowing ourselves, one of our core competencies for everyone is to be flexible, and that's actually one of my favorites. It's probably one of the ones that I quote the most. Because we're not necessarily a black and white organization. I like to say that we operate a lot in the gray. So we allow ourselves room to be flexible and to ask questions about why we're doing this. One of my favorite quotes from Pam Sandlin-Smith, our director, is that we never let tradition dictate where we wanted to go next. And we even have to, in our short lifespan as Anythink, remind ourselves that. And so I kind of wanted to share this example of Spark because I think that it sort of represents that rethinking and that asking those tough questions. We launched Spark. Spark was is our public newsletter, and we launched it in June 2009, just before we were getting ready to push out the Anythink brand and introduce Anythink to our community to Anythink. And when we started, nobody really knew what Anythink was. And we had this whole new vernacular, this whole new language, this new approach to library service. And we had a lot of explaining to do. And so Spark was the vehicle to help us do that. It was going to help us establish the Anythink voice. And, because we were building new libraries and really changing our programs and our services, we needed some way to communicate with the community what all these changes were about. So it was great publication. We put a lot of time into it, a lot of effort into it. But last year, we took a look at it and said, readership's going down. We're really not getting the same kind of comments that we had been getting before. We're not really getting the same kind of engagement. And if we were being totally honest, we weren't as excited about putting it out as we had been in the past. So we decided to take a step back and start asking some hard questions. Why do we do this? Why do we put this out? What's the purpose? What are we trying to accomplish? Where are we as an organization? Is it still meeting our needs? And after a lot of long chats and brainstorming, we realized that it had served a distinct purpose, but the organization had changed. We had a new strategic plan. We had a new vision for where we wanted to go next, and it really wasn't meeting our needs. It wasn't about us anymore. We wanted to create a publication that was more outward-looking, and so so we launched the new version of Spark in June, and July, and this is our second issue, which just came out a couple weeks ago. And it includes multiple voices. It's not as much about Anythink and the things that we offer as it is about ideas and inspiration, and really highlighting our community and inspiring ideas, and is much more outward looking than it is just sort of a cheerleader piece about Anythink. But it was really important for us to ask those tough questions and ask why. So we are actually, so we want to talk a little bit too about our current strategic plan. This strategic plan was for 2012 to 2014, and we actually have extended it through 2015 because it's resonated with us so much, and we still have some work that's left to be done. But we've been really proud of this strategic plan in particular because it really focuses on 5 main initiatives, and the strategic plan itself is only about 5 pages. So the 5 initiatives are: Anythink is a learning organization, Anythink is a participatory library. We understand and collaborate with our community. Creativity and innovation are supported by technology. And shifting perceptions of anythink in libraries. So much of the work that we're doing right now is focusing, really all of the work that we're doing right now is focusing on these 5 main areas. But for us, what it really boils down to is creating happiness. And that sounds super lofty, and we totally understand that. But really we think of this as being happiness at the center. And how we can support our communities and support people in our communities to be their best selves and try to spread a little happiness in their lives. And the most literal example of this is the happiness experience that we created here at Anythink. That, again, I think is an example of the perfect merging between our culture and our brand here. So the happiness experience started when one of our part-time concierges here at Anythink Right Farms, which is our flagship branch, and our concierges are basically the equivalent of a library assistant. Mm-hmm. So what we, and Susan touched on this a little bit earlier, we have what we call experience zones here at Anythink. And so these are little interactive pieces that are kind of surprises that are placed throughout the library that help bring information to life. And it can be something as simple as at Huron Street, one of our larger branches, we had a ball of string. And I know this sounds really simple, but it was this just small ball of string that we asked community members to come in and contribute to. If they wanted to bring string from home, they could add to this ball. And people started bringing in string like crazy. And then they'd come back to the library to see how much it had grown. Until several weeks later, the ball of string ended up being over 2 feet in diameter. And it was just it's a small, simple thing, but it got people engaged. They came back to see how it grown. They contributed to it, and it brought people together. A very simple thing. Doesn't cost a lot of money. It doesn't really have to cost any money at all. But it was a source of delight for people. So that's one example of an experience zone. Another example would be that for Valentine's Day, you know, we just had heart Post-it notes that people could write what they love, and they just added it to a wall until there was just this giant mural of Post-it notes with everything from I love my grandma to I love robots to I love beer. So Justina here at Right Farms came up with this idea of doing she was inspired by a documentary on happiness, and wanted to do an experience zone all about gratitude. And so Justina and Suzanne, our branch manager here at Anythink Right Farms, came to us in the communications department and said, so we've got this idea, like, I don't know if you're into this, but we've really been inspired by the folks at Oak Park Public Library outside of Chicago and their idea box, where they take a room and they transform it every month into a new experience. So they're like, so we've got this conference room, and we're kind of thinking we might want to transform it. Would you guys like to work together? And we just loved this idea so much. And Justine is just like one of our total rock stars. So much passion and creativity that we were really excited to work with her. And what we ended up doing was taking this conference room at the front of the library and transforming it into this happiness experience. It was this spa-like setting that really incorporated all of these different senses. So we had chocolates, and we had a fountain with, with water running, and we had aromatherapy, and people could learn about happiness, the science of happiness, what the chemicals were, and how physical therapy or exercise increases happiness. And we had postcards that people could fill out, and we would mail to them that were all about gratitude. We had like little prompts that people could take that were all about paying it forward. So they said things like call an old friend or give a stranger a compliment, hold the door open for someone. You can see here we incorporated the collection, so we pulled books all about happiness and gratitude and incorporated those into the space too. We had this up for about a month, and it was just amazing, the response that we received from the community. I mean, when we were taking this down, we had people banging on the windows, no, don't take away happiness. So it was really incredible, and it represents how one small idea can grow into this incredible experience for our customers, and really kind of highlights the collaborative spirit that we try to foster here at Anythink. So this started as this month-long experience zone at Wright Farms, but it was so popular that PLA actually asked us to recreate it as part of the exhibit hall this year in Indianapolis. So we had this challenge. We knew that we weren't going to be able to recreate a spa-like setting in the middle of an exhibit hall, but instead we called it Camp Happiness. And so we amped up the colors, we amped up kind of the experience to make it a little bit more lively, and we continued to spread happiness throughout PLA, or we hoped that we did. And this is Suzanne and Justina. They were able to be there and help put it together, and it was just really cool to see and talk with. We had hundreds and hundreds of people come through the space and got to talk with them about how different ideas for transforming a space and creating these experience zones, and how you can take kind of simple things to connect people in your library. We had people add to this tree how they spread happiness in their own libraries, which was really great. We had the postcards there, so people could actually fill out these postcards, and we had a mailbox, and we mailed probably I think over 300 postcards through the course of the couple days that we were there in Indianapolis. We also had these different coins that said, give, help, share, that people could take and then do something for somebody else and pass it on. So you can see kind of these, you can see the brand represented here, but also those core values and those competencies really run through everything that we do. So another example is our participation in Outside the Lines. So we helped, and this is really kind of goes back to our initiative of shifting perceptions of anything in libraries. So we were one of the organizers for Outside the Lines, which was a national initiative that was really about showing, not just telling communities how libraries have changed, but showing them. So we had participating libraries agreed to do something really unique and fun inside the library, outside in their communities, that engaged folks and really got people thinking about libraries in a different way. And we ended up having 179 libraries across the U.S. and Canada who signed up to participate. And this just happened a couple weeks ago. September 14th through 20th is when the celebration was held. And for us at Anythink, we serve very much a commuter community. We have a lot of bedroom communities here. It's more affordable to buy a home or rent a home in Adams County, and then we have a lot of folks who commute down to Denver for work or for school. And so we wanted to do something as a commuter appreciation. So we set up shop at 6 a.m. on a Friday morning at the local park and ride, where people would park and catch the buses. So it was a major hub here in Thornton. And we had a team of folks who came from across the district to help out. And I mean, this is bright and early. And we served coffee and fruit, and then we had these little gift bags here. I'll show you, like these little gift bags here, and they had information about our downloadables. They had little earbuds and a copy of Spark and information about the library. But we were really there just to say thank you. And we gave out probably over 200 of those little goodie bags within the first 45 minutes we were there. But our staff were all smiles, and even though it was bright and early, we were there together. People really appreciated just saying thanks and getting a cup of coffee, and it was a really incredible experience, and we learned a lot about how we might do some different kinds of outreach in the future. So I want to just wrap things up with something that still resonates with us. It's actually 6 years ago yesterday that we introduced our staff to our staff manifesto. It was actually my first day of working here too, which I'm always really sentimental about, because if you guys can't tell, I kind of love my job. I think Susan and I both do. But something that really resonated with us is this staff manifesto, and we wanted to and share it with you. You are not just an employee, volunteer, or board member. You do not merely catalog books, organize periodicals, and manage resources. You are the gateway into the mind of the idea people who come to our facilities to find or fuel a spark. Part wizard, part genius, part explorer, it is your calling to trespass into the unknown and come back with a concrete piece someone can hold on to, turn over, and use to fuel their mind and soul. So I think this is, 6 years later, this is something that we still wholeheartedly believe in, and brings us a lot of pride. And we, this is Anythink staff manifesto, but we really feel like this is all of our manifesto for everyone who works in libraries. So we wanted to share that with you, and I think we'll wrap up, and we have some time for some questions.
Great. Thank you, Stacie and Susan, and thank you for putting your contact information up on the screen as well. Question from Eric. How is the process for getting frontline staff buy-in for the Anythink initiative achieved prior to launch?
Anythink initiative?
Yes.
You want to talk about the brand? Is it the branding piece we're talking about, or the shifting from skills-based to competency-based? Well,
yeah, it's probably all of
the latter.
Yes.
Well, so
he said the latter.
Which was the latter? Skill-based to competency?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we rolled out new job descriptions. We had a lot of things going on all at the same time at Anythink, and I think we alluded to that a little bit in the presentation. But we had job descriptions that we rolled out to every branch, and we had competencies that we rolled out. Competencies, so we asked people to apply for a job that they were passionate about and interested in, and everybody did, and they landed into a different role: the wrangler role, the concierge role, or the guide role. To go to competency-based, we incorporated that in our performance reviews. We incorporate that in our hiring process. So each year we have an annual review process in which our review is based on competencies. So we call them the PI reviews, or Pride and Excellence. 13 core competencies are on there that every year managers review employees on. Do you have anything to add on that?
Well, I just want to say, there was, like Susan said, there were so many changes that happened at the same time. So within 1 year, we went fine-free. We don't charge overdue fines. We decided to, I'm going to say 3 years. So within 3 years, we went fine-free. We went completely Dewey-less at we're the first library system in the country, I think still, that does not use Dewey district-wide. We use a word-based system. We were launching the brand. We created these new jobs and had everybody reapply for their jobs. We built 4 new libraries and renovated 3, and we launched the Anythink brand. There was a lot of other stuff that happened, but this was an organization that was poised for change,
right.
And there was so much that was going on, but it was all in context. And I think we did a really good job of communicating every part of it, so that these things weren't coming from left field at all. It was all in context of creating this new experience. And so even though it seems like really daunting and really scary, because we were so driven by that why, we didn't really come up against as much resistance as you would think.
We didn't.
Okay, so what was the library called before the change?
It was Rangeview Library District,
Okay.
and previously we were actually so the library system was started in 1953, and it was Adams County Public Library. In 2004, we actually separated from the county and became a special taxing district, and at that time became Rangeview Library District. But nobody really knew who we were. We were actually the worst funded library system in the state of Colorado for over 50 years. So we were sort of starting from the ground up. And in 2006, we had a mill levy. The voters approved a mill levy increase that allowed us to make all of these changes. And really, I mean, now we're just the 3rd lowest. So we're doing a lot with a little, you know. So, yeah.
So was there confusion on the part of your patrons to the change?
So I mean, we sort of came out of the gates like full speed ahead, you know, and one of the things that we did when we were getting ready to launch Anythink was that we started incorporating that language. That's one of the reasons why we talk about this a lot, is that how important language is that we were incorporating all of this into our communication. So like they knew it was coming a little bit, and we were really scared. You know, when we opened those doors on September 12th, we were actually opening Anythink Brighton, and it was the first time anybody was going to see the brand, and we were like, oh my God, please, I hope it works. Like, I hope they respond. And it was amazing. They completely got it. They understood. They embraced it. There were a couple people that were like, what's going on? But really, the community has completely taken ownership of it, and they're really proud of it.
Awesome. How did you convince your funding bodies to support the Anythink model?
Funding buddies?
It was a
Funding bodies.
Funding bodies.
We have a mill levy that was established. So we have a mill that is tax supported that we're funded through.
Right. We're funded through property taxes, and I mean, so we are. So we have a policy making board, 5 board members, and so we did. There was a lot of talk back and forth with them when, I mean, they understood the changes that we were making. They were critical to us creating the experience model and heading in that direction, and they knew we needed a brand that better represented this whole shift in library service. It was, you know, it was a process.
Right.
It wasn't like you just kind of showed them Anythink and they were like, yeah. I mean, we did have some board members who immediately it resonated with. Some it took a little. I think it was part of like the staff. This is part of that culture part where it's so important that the staff loved it and were like kind of embracing it so much that helped them come along. But it's really a testament to Pam, our director, and her patience and tenacity that she really took the time to make sure that everybody was 100% on board and
our board wanting to be an innovative library.
Totally.
So our board is an innovative group in itself.
Right. Yep. Totally. Which was huge.
Another question is, would you have done anything differently if your population had been primarily seniors rather than mostly people under 50?
So, you know, that's one part of the brand. Like, and when we talk a lot, you know, we actually get questions about whether we should franchise. Like, we get those kinds of questions, but it kind of goes back to that why again. We probably would have taken a different approach if our community was different. you know, and it not just because of age, but, you know, the fact that we're in a suburban area, you know, age does play a role. The fact that we are mostly like a what's the word I'm looking for? Popular browsing.
Oh, yeah.
We have a popular browsing collection, so we don't have a lot of people who are coming in here to do heavy research. You know, all of these different factors played into that brand, and so when you're doing a rebranding, it's really important to say who are we, who is the community that we serve, and the brand reflects that. I mean, we took some risks too, but it's really important to get back to that why, and every single library district, every library system has a different why.
So before you made the shift to Anythink, would you say that your district or your organization was kind of moving toward this organizational culture and was changing this name kind of like propelling that?
We've gone through a lot of growth over the last 5 years as well. We started at like 65 people, I think, when Pam started, and we're now at 147 employees.
Wow.
I think that one of the things that I'll say is that we had passionate librarians way back that wanted to serve and be the best they could be for the community. And as Stacie said, we were primed to be ready for something greater than we were right now.
Totally.
We were underfunded. We were poor. And, and we were doing the best we could do with what we had. So when the opportunity came that our mill passed, that we were able to create some new libraries and create a new identity for ourselves, people were willing to dream and go and have that opportunity to visualize what their dream library would be.
Totally.
So,
Awesome.
that is one way we got a lot of people on board, because we put them in part of that process of dreaming with us, what can we be? And so that is a big shift of what's happened here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well said. Finally, Lisa asked if you could review the I am statements.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can go back to that slide, too.
Yeah. And I promise not to miss, I am an effective communicator this time.
I couldn't have planned that better. That was awesome. Oh, gosh. Okay, I'm sure there was an easier way for me to do this, but we're reliving it.
And does this resonate with a lot of the staff, do you think?
Which?
The competency?
The I am statements.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
I also think putting them in I am statements make them very personal, right? They create ownership there.
Oh, God. Let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
I am.
Go ahead. You read them.
Customer focused, cooperative and a collaborator, understanding and compassionate, a self-starter and have a strong work ethic, flexible and embrace change, an effective communicator, a problem solver, responsible and honest, emotionally mature. That's my favorite because that's the one I always have to work on. A continuous learner, an innovator, a leader, an anythinker. I should also mention too that on our website,
Yes.
it's anythinklibraries.org.
Yep, I put those there.
Yeah, there's we have what we call the Anythink tank, and I think it's still in the main navigation on the left-hand side. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there are some resources, which actually includes these 13 competencies.
And it has job descriptions as well.
Yeah.
But it has the list of these competencies.
Yes.
Great. So I put your website link in the chat box, and as I mentioned at the beginning, we are recording this, so if you did miss any of those I am statements, you can also go back and listen to them as well. So ladies, we are out of time, but I just wanted to thank you for sharing all of this stuff about your organization. I think you've given us a lot of food for thought and ways to rethink our libraries and our our organizations. So as I mentioned, the recording should be up within the next day or two. I hope all of you had learned as much as I did. I'm sure you did. And thank you again, Stacie and Susan. Hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great week.
Thank
you.